Hello and welcome to Newbold Parish Church. In The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams places his story. Nearly 2,000 years after one man had been nailed to a tree for saying how great it would be to be nice to people for a change. We might think that's a bit of a simplification. However, it's certainly true that Jesus came to show us what God's love means for people. Jesus said that the whole law hung on loving God and loving our neighbour. And in the epistle reading we have set for today, Paul repeats this when he says, "The one who loves another has fulfilled the law." But what is love? Is it just as Douglas Adams has said, being nice to each other? Certainly, I think being nice is a good start. Paul says that love does no wrong to a neighbour. How do we love someone when they have wronged us? In today's reading from Matthew's account of the life of Jesus, we have Jesus' advice on what to do when we've been wronged. In one sense, it's encouraging that this advice is there at all. Jesus knows that as his followers, we are going to sin against each other. We are going to offend and be offended. It's the reality of being human, even when we're followers of Jesus. The other thing that I think it's really worth highlighting at this point is the context of this advice in Matthew's Gospel on how to be reconciled. It comes directly after the story Jesus told about God being like a shepherd, leaving 99 sheep to search for one that has gone astray. And it's immediately followed by Jesus' advice on forgiving 70 times 7 times, with the warning that if we don't forgive, then our Father in heaven can't forgive us. So the advice on what to do when we've been wronged absolutely needs to be read from the perspective of humble love and desire for reconciliation, not from the perspective of self-righteousness and desire for revenge. In the history of the Church, certainly this advice has been misused to silence people or make them conform to a particular expectation. You know, I think genuine reconciliation is one of the things that it's hardest to get right. Often the way we deal with being wronged is the way we've seen it modelled by those around us as we grew up. Sometimes we try and shove it under the rug. Sometimes we paper over the cracks and pretend it's not there. Sometimes we treat the person negatively and become uncooperative. Sometimes we give the silent treatment. Sometimes we'll talk to anybody about it other than the person concerned. Sometimes we overreact and blow up like a storm in a teacup. Sometimes we make people take sides. Sometimes we even storm off and never speak to somebody again. Jesus' practical instructions are very different to these reactions. He says, in the first instance, we are to go and chat to the person concerned one-to-one. This requires courage. We need to risk an honest conversation and strive for genuine reconciliation and not just an illusion of harmony. But by going to the person on our own, We're to do this with discretion and kindness. It's not about exposure and humiliation. And we need to go with humility. Although it's not always so, we might be partly to blame for the situation. Even then, Jesus knows that this won't always be successful. Then he suggests that we engage a couple of trusted others to come alongside and help us bring about a reconciliation. And only after both these avenues have been tried and failed do we bring it to the community we are part of. And sometimes all our efforts will fail and we will lose a member of the community. What does it mean to say, let such a one be an outsider, a tax collector, a Gentile? What I think it really doesn't mean is that we cut that person off or get rid of them. Because we know from taking the Gospels together that Jesus loved the outsider, the tax collector, the Gentile. So even if we make a painful decision to safeguard the church, even as we recognise that the insider is now outside, we need to practice hospitality. We need to extend care. We need to hold open the possibility of repentance, reconciliation, restoration, and renewal. Jesus said that people would know we are his followers by the love we have for one another and by our unity. In a world where things are becoming increasingly polarised, can we demonstrate a way of dealing with hurts that is different? A way of dealing with wrongs that doesn't just pretend that everything is all right, that nothing really happens, that it doesn't matter, but instead confronts the reality in love and results in true reconciliation.